Welcome to AFL Uncensored. I am your host, Tej Johannesson. With me, I have a co-host, Omari Fraser. We are doing the first episode of AFL Uncensored podcast. Today, we are going to really give listeners an insight into what we're trying to accomplish with the podcast, not only with the podcast, but with the AFL in general. I think as we move forward, this podcast will evolve as it should. And we're hoping to bring entertainment and some good banter and stuff leading into the season. So to begin, I'd like to introduce both of us. So first, Omari, please introduce yourself, your football history, and your AFL history.
Yeah. Hey, welcome guys to the podcast here, AFL Uncensored. And we're definitely excited. And just a little bit about me. I think I started playing football when I was in grade 9. Started playing Bantam. Played for the Calgary Cowboys. Did that. Then ended up playing spring ball as well. I actually have a unique story where I actually didn't end up playing high school ball because the high school I went to didn't have a team. So ended up just playing spring ball and played until grade 11. And then from grade 12, I wanted to go play junior. Just saw that as like the next step I could go play. So I was able to go play junior, play my 5 years of junior with the Calgary Colts from 2013 to 2017. And it was a very interesting journey where, coming in, didn't have the high school experience and, worked my way through just, being someone who's on scout to special teams and getting some offensive time. I was never really like a star player, but I really appreciate the connections, the friendships, the lessons that football teaches. I think that's what's really stuck with me more. And I guess when I look at like my journey through when I was younger, what I got out of football, and I guess from there, wrapped up in 2017, ended up playing AFL, and it was always a peak of interest of mine because I did have an interest. There was some interest in me going out to University of Toronto to play my last 2 years, and I was also done school and had my career to look at. And I was like, you know what? Let's just focus on the career. I feel like I got what I can out of on the, from football at that point. But I just really saw AFL and men's as like a way to keep playing high level football and still enjoy life and have life and not have football be the big commitment that we're so used to. So it's been fun with just going into my I think fifth year now. Fourth year. Yeah, fourth year now with men's, and it's been just great to still compete at a high level. And there's definitely some teams and games that the excitement and it goes up. But I think this will be really fun because it's going to be a great time to allow voices to be heard and let banter go, but bring excitement to the league because we have something so unique which other provinces just simply don't have. Like there's us in Ontario, but we'll dive into that in a bit. But I'll hand it off to you here, Tej.
Yeah, and you've been with the Wolfpack for all the years, right?
Yeah.
So when I came, I'll get to this a little later, I guess. But when I came to the Wolfpack this year, I tried to buy Omari's number from him because he wears number 5 and he was not selling. So I ended up wearing 22 for the first time in my AFL career. But I said to you at the time, I said that I really respected you not giving it up. Honestly, like you couldn't buy my number from me for any kind of money, honestly. So I respected that a lot. So, so for me, I started playing, my uncle actually played in the CFL. He won a Grey Cup with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 1989, number 85, James Ellingson. And so I always kind of grew up. He got traded to the old Ottawa Roughriders and after that Grey Cup. And so I actually grew up cheering for the old Ottawa Roughriders and really loving football, and started playing in grade 8 in BC. Then I moved to Red Deer in grade 9 and played Bantam here, and then played high school, grade 11 and 12, before I moved back to BC for my grade 12 year in North Delta, where I played for the Sand Scorpions. We play American ball down there in BC high school football. So that was kind of cool. I played junior, went to a national championship with the Edmonton Wildcats in 2009. We lost to a young Andrew Harris and a quarterback by the name of Jordan Yance, who was unbelievable. That Nanaimo Raiders team in 2009 was insane. But that was a cool experience. And then I moved back to Red Deer with my then girlfriend, now wife, as she was getting a teaching job. So we moved back to Red Deer, and I reached out to Dave Haney, who was the founder of the Buccaneers, a really influential and important person in AFL history, who we'll have on this podcast at some point. Sent him an email, and I was a receiver. Pretty much full-time receiver my whole life up until that point. And he basically told me they had like 40 receivers. So I was like, well, I want to, and it was kind of, back then it was more fair play than it really is now. The veterans got those spots. So he said they didn't have any DBs. So I was like, well, I'll do that. Like, I've done it a little bit in my life, and played my first year at DB, and I had a lot of interceptions and a lot of being burnt for touchdowns because I had no idea what I was doing. And that really motivated me. We'll have a guest on soon, Ryan Belrose, who we all know. And he really ripped into me that year because I thought I was a lot better than I was. And he ripped into me and called it out as it was. And that kind of refocused me to really focus on becoming a really good DB. And then I did in 2016. I set the interception record, the all-time AFL interception record. In 2017, I set the knockdown record. And at this point, I have all the DB records, and I've kind of moved on to do some more receiver in the last few years. With the Bucks in 2021 and with the Wolfpack last year, I played a bit of both ways as well. So for me, the AFL has been a godsend. The ability to play football and the relationships that I've created in my life, and the memories. Most of the greatest memories in my life and friendships in my life stem from the AFL. So much more than just football. And I've always really wanted to give back to the league, which is kind of what we're really trying to do with this podcast. And just, I think, putting this out there and allowing people to hear other players speak. And, we have our little Facebook forum and stuff like that. It's just not the same though. If this is a little more intimate, it allows people's voices to be heard. And I think there's a really great community of people in the AFL, and that, care for each other and care for each other's successes. So I'm really excited to do this. I'm excited to give back to the league. I'm excited to do this with you, Omari. I had the opportunity to be your teammate for a year last year, and I know you do a lot of great stuff with youth football and some camps that I've seen you at and running. And so I think this is a really cool opportunity to highlight players and teams and individuals as well. So I guess today I really want to speak about that, and that is what we're going to try to accomplish on this podcast. And of course, and you guys can reach out to me or Mari, and if there's any ideas anyone has, I'd love to hear from them. We want this to be entertaining for people. We want people to listen. We're going to really try to do a weekly podcast, and maybe even kind of mini episodes during the season where we have different interviews of, rivalry games coming up and stuff like that. So they won't always be long episodes. Some will be short, but we hope to pump out a lot of content for people to get the league out there and to create excitement. So our goals for the podcast leading up to the season are really to bring attention to the league. And that is not just from a player standpoint, but that is also from a sponsorship standpoint. I think you'll agree, Amari, we just have so much ability to represent our league and get our league out there that maybe we haven't taken advantage of, hey?
Absolutely. This league in itself is, when I tie back to how it's so unique in the sense of where only Alberta and Ontario have men's football leagues, right? Like typically BC, Sask, Manitoba. I think Manitoba, I'm not sure if they do or not, but I know just primarily it's Alberta, Ontario league. We have the opportunity where, hey, as long as you're over 18, you can still play football. And like there's a lot of athletes out there, a lot of high school players where they don't make junior, don't make youth sport, and they're done. Well, come to Alberta, go to Ontario, you can play for as long as you like, as your body's willing. And just with that should open up way more doors of opportunity of, like I know we were speaking about it where there's sponsorships, I like to maybe think commercials in here and there. Perhaps that'd be kind of fun, but just there's a lot of opportunity here. And we definitely all due to the unique voice of each and every one of us has, and the stories and how football just binds us. Because I think it's just so unique where, we're all playing football here just at some point or some aspect for the love of the game. And, you can't deny that at any level.
No, not at all. And I think if you're an adult and you're willing to sacrifice your body, understanding that football is a dangerous game, I think you're only doing it because of the love of the game. You know what I mean? Nobody's getting paid here. Everyone has to pay fees. And I really, with this podcast, I want to reward all the sacrifices that guys make to play in this league. And I think getting people's names out there, getting people's stories, getting more fans to the games, more sponsorship, just more eyes on the league in a positive way. I think for a long time the league has maybe had a negative image, due to maybe a lack of really doing stuff like this and talking about the positive things that the league brings. There's this kind of reputation out there, that the AFL is a so-called bush league or like
beer
beer league, and that kind of stuff irritates me because I've played beer league sports and they don't practice all summer, twice a week. They don't put their bodies on the line in full contact sports. I would argue that the AFL can be more dangerous than even, professional level football, because those professional players are taught and coached to be so careful in their violence. And a lot of times in the AFL, you got guys that are throwing their heads into things, and it's not called as tightly. And everyone knows that. Everyone knows that it's a dangerous sport. And that's anything from beer league. And on top of that, since I've come into this league, there's been a couple down years, but there have been some unbelievable years with teams full of university level talent, junior level talent, guys that eventually went on to play in the CFL, guys that already had played in the CFL. And that stuff is the stuff we want to be talking about. I want to kind of get away from, and I think, our own players and stuff kind of get into that mode of talking about it that way. But I want people to be proud of playing in the AFL. I want people to have pride and appreciation for the league and what it brings and how hard it is to go out there and put your body on the line and go through all the traveling and understanding that this is a game where not all good things can happen. So I want people to be rewarded for that. I want the league to get more clout and more respect. And I think we all deserve that. I also think that when we want to really, for our own players, rev up excitement for the season. So we'll have different goals going into the season on stuff that we'll do, like segments we'll do in season. That's going to be really fun. Like we can do so many different segments and stuff. Going into the season, I really want to, we want to, like we said, bring attention to the league, but we want to really rev up the excitement for the season. I'm already seeing teams putting out their posters of who they've signed, and we've already got a little bit of shit talk on the internet, and we've got people and people like that because it's exciting. It's fun to talk about that stuff. It's fun to create those rivalries. And I for myself, I'm going back to the Bucks this year, and for myself, I see a lot of people talking about, the rematch of Cold Lake and GTA. And I'm like, well, fuck, it's January right now, boys. Like, let's settle down a little bit. I get a little bit spicy when I hear that. People are kind of forgetting about the Bucks. And I'm sure you feel the same. Like, no one really knows what's going on with the Wolfpack. And we like that stuff. And so we want to rev up that excitement. We want to have players on here. I'm going to be having representatives from each team onto the podcast, and we'll talk about them, some of their signings. I'd love to talk to teams and get on, some players that they're excited about. You had mentioned it, Omar, you're getting rookies on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Some youth players, the young blood that comes to the league. Because as I mentioned, maybe there's players who didn't have the great senior season to have opportunity to go next level, U Sport junior, and like say, hey, come play men's, come learn how to play with grown men, and just really that excitement. Because it's when you think of the time when you thought football was over, it can put you in a state of like, oh, like what's next and everything. But to have that opportunity of like, hey, there's men's coming, there's men's you can play in, share your excitement, bring other high school, that not only will help the teams in their area, but just bring in new blood, which a new energy, which always helps things flow better and just helps the league grow. And I definitely love the idea of just bringing on a couple rookies, young bloods, and have them just speak their mind for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a really cool opportunity for them, and helping them feel involved with the league too. And I think we kind of forget, especially as veterans of the league, the huge responsibility that we have over young people coming into our leagues, and the way we can be leaders for them, and set examples for them, and also help. I'm going to be really blessed this year to be playing with, a handful, 5, 6, or 7 kids that I actually have coached for a number of years here in Sylvan Lake. So for me, it's going to be a really cool opportunity. And it kind of took that to make me realize, like, hey, like the AFL is not just dudes showing up and playing football. Like, when I think about everything this league has given me, the AFL has created or has allowed me to grow as a football player, as a human. My weaknesses have been exposed. My flaws as a human have been exposed. And the AFL has allowed me to see those things and to become and grow as a human being. And I just, giving back to the league, giving back to the young guys, and understanding that we really do have a lot of ability to give young men an experience to grow as players and as people, which is, as you said before, really unique when it comes to men's sports, because you're not getting that at your beer league hockey games. You know what I mean? It's not,
No.
People aren't taking those same memories and lessons and growth from that type of stuff. And that's why I think we want to realize that the AFL is football, and I think it's great entertainment, especially this year. But it's also a lot more than that. And I think that's a really fun responsibility to have.
Absolutely. And as well, just like, I think as much as we want to, as revving up for excitement for the season, there's the beautiful thing with football is there's so many moving pieces that go into it. So as well, just highlighting, other than players, like teams, like the trainers, they do a big role in ensuring that we're, our bodies are up to, being able to play the game, and volunteers, and as well as the fans, like just recognizing the fans. Like, if you were to guess at all the leagues, which fan base, which team has the best fan base, biased or unbiased?
Well, I mean, it's the Bucks. Yeah, it's the Bucks. Yeah,
I can definitely agree. I'll agree to that. That's one thing where I know playing Wolfpack and home games with the Bucks, I'm just like, it's always a little bit more. It's like always more exciting because like the Red Deer facility, definitely top notch to have games there where you got the stands, the Settlers Field, and everything. But the way the community comes together for the team, you definitely can't argue that. And just to give props to all the fans in Red Deer for bringing that community in, as well for now other teams to emulate that.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool.
And I'm already probably going to get in trouble. Cold Lake's going to be yelling at me. I'll say this: Cold Lake they did a really good job last year, but they just haven't been around long enough quite for me to say they have the best fans. So it's, you know what, that's cool too, right? Because there's a competition in of itself, and I think you're right. I think we'll look to have some big time. We'll reach out to teams and kind of maybe they can do a competition at one of their games of like who's our biggest fan, and whoever wins that gets to come on the podcast and talk about the teams. That'd be kind of cool. So, and then we can maybe have a fan competition or something like that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And you also said, which I think is really important, you mentioned the trainers and the volunteers. We all know that the AFL doesn't run without great trainers and great volunteers. So we want to have, and maybe we'll do the same thing with that. We'll have teams kind of nominate a trainer or a volunteer, and they can come on the podcast and talk about why they do what they do. And we would not, there's no league, there's no AFL without those amazing people, and they don't get enough recognition. And that's what's so cool about the AFL and what separates it again from those typical beer leagues, right? We do have all these moving pieces. We have these people sacrificing their time to come in and help us stay healthy and to help us organize these games. Like, for the Bucks, we've got people that, run the concession every single game and do the 50-50s and do the chains. And it's just, yeah. So we really, thank you for mentioning that, because those people are going to be really important as well. We're also going to bring on a lot of former players. Our next episode, we'll have one of those, and we're going to do some cool interviews, and we'll have some cool questions for those guests to really shine light on the history of the league. I know you've got one down there, Amari and Daryl, that we'll definitely have on for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Daryl love to come on, and possibly even Rob, just hit a lot of history. And like, I know I'm from one Wolfpack, Tejas from Red Deer, and I know we might sound biased, but like really I want to highlight the whole league, because there's tons of history here. Like, when I think to like Daryl, like he's played 17 years. So I'm like, okay, like there's got to be guys along the way that have unique stories and different experiences, and as well like the alumni, like that's a whole other like realm of this league in itself, is just the alumni, where guys, maybe the bodies were say, hey, body said no, time to wrap it up, but just love to watch and hear and keep part. This would be a great way for them just to voice their experiences as well, things that they like to see grow, and possibly even maybe an alumni booster. That could be an idea.
Yeah, that could be an idea. And you know what? I'm a person, I love hearing experienced people tell stories. So we're gonna ask some good questions that hopefully lead to some good stories, whether it be on field, whether it be road trip stories, which we all love, and we all have a few of those. So I'm looking forward to that, to really diving into the history of the league, because the other unique thing about our league is it's so old. I don't even know. I'll have to ask our first guest. He'll know for sure, but it's got to be. I know for sure they were playing in the early '80s. So it's actually kind of crazy to think, and also to think about when we talk about trainers and volunteers. Like, man, how many? This league's been going on every year except the COVID year, and how many people had to step up to keep this thing going, right? Because the reality is at any time, if the league would have fallen off for 1 year, like, hey, we can't make it work this year, COVID aside, because it's different. I don't think it gets brought back, right? So you have all these people that have kept this league afloat, which is just amazing. And Rob and Daryl obviously are two of those mainstays for sure. We want to, this is going to be a cool one. In our third episode, we'll have President Vince and Vice President Teague on the podcast. So we'll introduce you guys to the executive so you guys can really get to know them. We'll ask them some questions about their vision of the league and stuff like that. So I really want players to know who the people are that are on the board. Myself and Omari have nothing to do with the AFL board. We are doing this independently, but we want to have those people on here. I think transparency is really key. I know Vince and Teague definitely want to hear from the players as well and get their ideas and get their voices out there so that you guys get to know them. And it's a lot of hard work. I know Vince traveled all the way up to Cold Lake last year for the championship game. He's got a family, he's got kids, but he went up there and I know he had a good time afterwards, but that's not an easy thing to do. And those things kind of go underappreciated. So I want to bring them on so we can meet them and people have, put a voice to the people running the league and volunteering their time. And then moving into our in-season goals. So these are going to be really cool. I think we want to do things like games of the week for sure. So we'll have Omari and I will discuss kind of what we think the game of the week is. We'll discuss that with our buddy Double D, who will be helping on this podcast as well. He does a lot of really cool stuff. Double D Shots, check him out. He is so great for the league and deserves all the love and all the appreciation and respect. So we'll be doing some games of the week stuff, and we'll interview players and coaches from the teams that are in those games and really set up those rivalries. What else are we doing in season?
Gonna be the weekly rankings. I know that's one thing where the league, just from like me being in the league always awaits the Teague weekly rankings and analysis.
So much easier to do it via voice, by the way. So I'm glad.
It'll be, we'll save the clicks, and I think that'd be really cool. And I mean, it's with the rankings, someone's always going to have like before it, against it. That's the beautiful things for rankings. Like it can, it fires people up. It makes people like slack a little bit.
Well, here's the thing about rankings. Okay. So, it does frustrate me a little bit because, I think most people see the effort I put into it. I really don't. I watch a lot of film. I love watching film from other teams for obviously scouting reasons and stuff, but I love watching film. I love watching players and studying players, and I love stealing stuff from teams that they're doing or techniques from players that I respect. And so I watch a lot of film, and I do put a lot of effort into those rankings, and I try to make them as unbiased as, well, I do make them as unbiased as possible. I think, I was on the pack last year and I never ranked us above 4th or 5th. Right. So I'm pretty good at that. And I know you always offend somebody, but that's okay. We'll keep doing it because I think people do. It is a fun little thing, and it creates a little more spiciness.
Yes, you can't go wrong with the spice.
No, you can't go wrong with spice, and that's what makes it fun, right? Like it's in my younger days, I would shit talk more because I was insecure than anything. Nowadays, my shit talk is more polite and I don't really do a lot of it, but you still love the rivalry aspect of it. Like you still love feeling, oh, this guy thinks he's going to get me, and I can't wait to get out there on the game and just shut him up, right? So that stuff is fun. Like I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Like without that stuff, I don't know if sports would be nearly as fun. So
you have to, and like just to like when you look at the whole competing side of this, like I feel just as like everyone is individual in their own lives and everything, and we go through our weeks, good weeks, bad weeks, but like that's the beautiful thing with still being able to play football is like we just know like, hey, I'm going to be able to go to a practice, to a game, and prepare for war and compete and just satisfy that very masculine energy of just like wanting to win and dominate and do well and contribute. So I'm all for it, and I love the juiciness that it brings.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it, creating rivalries and more intrigue is just good for the league and in a healthy way, right? Like we are in season. I said I'd do this, so we're gonna do it. But we'll have a segment called the Levitsky Hour, and we'll bring Travis on. And I think the entire segment. I was trying to think about what I wanted to do with it, and I think I'll give Travis 2 names of random AFL players and just let him shit talk them for half an hour. Like, and he totally could, right? Like, that's the funny thing. And so it might be a little more complex than that, but I just really want to have fun with this. And again, if you're listening to this, like, message me if you've got ideas or you want to be on the podcast because you've got a story to tell. Like, we are open. We want to really pump out an episode a week and keep people entertained. And so reach out, but we'll do a lot of fun stuff. So that's basically what we wanted to cover in episode 1. Episode 2, we're going to record on Wednesday and release it. You guys are probably hearing this on either Monday or Tuesday. We're going to record episode 2 on Wednesday and release that hopefully by the weekend. And then episode 3, we've got booked for the following Wednesday with President Vince and Vice President Teague. So we've got episodes coming. And our first guest will be the infamous Ryan Belrose in episode 1. And I promise you that will be a lot of fun.
I can already hear the comments. I can already hear the thoughts. The people in their cars just being like, "Oh boy."
Well, here's the thing, and I've said this about Ryan, and we'll talk about this with him, I'm sure. Ryan is oftentimes correct, and I learned this the hard way when he went after me, and then I tried to go back after him in my rookie year. And so I've honestly learned to really respect Ryan and appreciate his. Not saying he's always right, and not saying the way he goes about things is always correct, but people love to listen to him. I love to listen to him. And so I'm really looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. Just to end, Amari, I want to go over, because I want to do kind of fun stuff on this podcast too and talk about the AFL. So I'm going to ask each of us, and you can go first, but speak about the most favorite game you've ever played in the AFL.
Favorite game. It comes down to 2 games. 2 games. My the first away game of my AFL career, which actually I make it that second because Airdrie for Calgary, we consider that home, but I guess we had to Fort Mac. I think I'll say the third. I'll say the first one, and I think we're both gonna come together on the second one, and then I'll let you take it away. But as it goes for my favorite or best game just coming into the league was definitely our 2018 away game to Fort Mac. First away game. Hop on the bus, got that joy of being on the part of the team, and we had a travel roster that went up, and I think for that game I was going to be RB1, and then it was natural swap because I played that all growing up, but it was really a game where I was able to really showcase myself, and at that time too, 2018 Fort Mac was definitely a solid team. I believe they went on to win. I remember
2018 they did.
Yeah, they did. They won, and it was cool because even though they were high ranked defense, I was still able to make some plays and help the team move forward and have good returns and just showcase myself as I was like, hey, like I can compete at this level and just reassure myself, even though I knew, but just that little check mark in my head, like, hey, I can compete at this level and do well and really showcase myself. And then I think the 2019 final between the Wolfpack and Bucks, again, we were against each other. But that was a game where, for me, it was tough because, again, we had I know we had a good friend of mine, Dylan Minchell, who was our RB1, and Tyler Shea RB2. They were both away for that game, so I had to step into the RB role, and it was like, hey, Mark, you want to go RB? Cool. Final. I've been playing slot most of the year, and just be able to come in. And I remember that game had some ups and downs to where, yes, I think I had some great catches and runs to help move the chains, but I also had like two drop passes and a fumble, which championship game you can't have. But it was just an emotional game where I was able to really, I was really pleased with myself, and I debriefed it later where I was like, hey, like, had the highs where you get to move the chains, and the lows where the fumble got pulled, but stayed just calm, cool, collected. And I'll take this. That's more of a mental win for myself of just staying smooth through the process. And I know you ended up winning, but that was a game that literally came down to like seconds.
Well,
and,
so 2019 final Bucks Wolfpack. That is my second favorite game of all time. Obviously, we lost that game, but that game was crazy. So we had the Bucks were kind of winning the game. It was kind of a low scoring first half. The Bucks came out hot in the second half, and we were up 2 touchdowns, and we were feeling pretty good. We're feeling comfortable. And then you guys kind of, I was kind of like, because we had the same game in the regular season. If you remember, we were up by a ton, and you guys came all the way back and you won in the last minutes in the regular season, which allowed you guys to actually host that game in 2019. So at McMahon, I was kind of like on the bench, like, guys, like this is Daryl Eason. Like you have to understand, like, the guy knows how to play in these moments. And I remember saying that exact thing to the defense. And so you made it close. And you ended up actually going up by 3. And then we were driving with like 1 minute and 50 left. We're driving down the field. I was playing offense at that time. I'd come over and I was playing defense, but for that drive, I came over and played offense. And we were moving it down the field, and eventually got to a 2nd and long. And our quarterback, Jarrett Burzak, threw an incomplete pass and got hurt. It ended up being a blown knee. So now we're sitting at 3rd and 10. We have no backup quarterback. And so we ran this formation. We're down 3. We're in field goal range, by the way. But the problem is that our quarterback was also our field goal holder. So I didn't have a holder, so we couldn't kick it. And so it was 3rd and 10 on our 35, on your 35. And we brought in Ben Nadiak to quarterback. And we went into a jumbo formation. We went 7 on the line, double tight. And I was actually the strong side tight end. And we had run this formation a bunch in that game with Ben back there. And Ben just ran it through. It was a power formation for Ben. But we went into the huddle, and Ben was like, Tyler, do an angle route, and I'm going to throw it to you. And I was like, okay, well, it's 3rd and 10. If we don't get this, the game's over. So I do an angle route, and he throws the ball on my back hip. And Chris Burak is on my tail. And this throw by Ben Nadiak was unbelievable. Now, he hadn't warmed up. We had never practiced this. He threw this ball in the absolute perfect position that barely got over Chris's head. If it's a little bit lower, a little bit higher, incomplete pass. Comes in there, throws a dime to me, and I ran in wide, caught it, ran in for the touchdown with 1 minute left in the game. And I lost my mind. I looked up, because I'd been waiting so long to win a championship with the Bucks. I look up, my wife's in the stand. She's crying. She's hugging her friend. I'm like, man, I just won us a championship. Like, Ben, I can't believe we made that throw. Everyone's going nuts. There's 1 minute left. You guys have no timeouts. We kicked the ball off. We got a penalty. I don't know if you remember this. We got a penalty. So you started at the 40. We go cover 4, and Daryl Eason just picked it apart. Ran down the field. He hit Aaron. He hit Aaron on like a 40-yard post route. Then we got roughing the passer, which moved the ball down to the 1-yard line. And then Daryl Eason, quarterback, sneaked in with like 20 seconds left in the game, and my heart broke, man. I was so upset. But that game was really cool, and it made winning in 2021 even more special. But that was a fun game. My actual most favorite game that I've ever played in was actually in the 2016 season opener, Bucks versus Fort Mac. And this was the year where Fort Mac had the fires, so they couldn't play. We were supposed to play in Fort Mac, but they couldn't play there. Obviously, because they had the fires, and they couldn't get any of their uniforms. So they had to get uniforms from the Edmonton Eskimos. They literally wore old, like 3rd Edmonton Eskimos jerseys. So we were like playing, it felt like we were playing the Eskimos. So we meet in like Sherwood Park or Spruce Grove or something like that. They're showing up in these Edmonton Eskimos jerseys. And this game is like touchdown. This is Brandon Lay's first game. So for those that don't know, Brandon Lay been a really good quarterback in this league. His first year, he's played every other year. Never 2 in a row, but all the even years he played. And 2016 was first year. First game he'd ever played with us. And I'm watching this guy. And I'm like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like I've watched, like Darrell Leeson's a great quarterback. The power in in Brandon's throws was unbelievable to watch live in a game. His poise, and I was like, man, I'm so glad this guy's on our team. And Fort Mac was scoring at will. We were scoring at will. And it comes down to the last play of the game. We're up, or they're up by 7, or they're up by 6, and there's like 2 minutes left in the game. Third and like 14, and Brandon, the ball gets snapped. Brandon, they blitz. They rush 6. Brandon looks like he's about to get sacked. We're all like, oh, we're about to lose the game. All of a sudden, he squeaks out of it and he starts scrambling, which he's not a huge scrambler, but it was unbelievable. He didn't get taken down. He's scrambling all over the place. He throws the ball, and when he threw it, I saw none of our players. I was like, where is? And then all of a sudden, Xavier Lawrence comes wide open across the back of the end zone, catches it, touchdown. We go up 1. Fort Mac gets the ball back, drive it down. There's like 1 second left on the clock, and they go to punt it through the end zone. Okay, so if you don't know Canadian football, you can punt it and get a rouge, they call it. So they're down 1, they try to punt it for the tie. And so I go back there, and I'm like, if he kicks us into the end zone and I catch it, I'm kicking it back out. And I was hoping that would happen because I thought that would be pretty cool. Perfect. He kicks it. It's coming right to me. It's about 10 yards deep in the end zone. I come up, I catch it. I immediately kick it back out. There's no time on the clock. So I kick it out. I run full speed because I realize like I'm onside. I don't have to give 5 yards on the punt. Guy kind of stands there and doesn't really know what to do, picks it up. I tackle him. Game over. We win. And so for me, that was a cool moment. It's the only time in my football life I've had the double kick, which you like see on like top 10s and stuff and TSN. So plus just the excitement of the game, the Fort Mac Fires, there's a lot of story behind it. Unfortunately, we ended up losing to them in the finals of that year, but it was a cool story for them and TSN covered it. So anyways, that's all for today, guys. So really thank you for listening. I think please give us feedback, like positive, negative stuff you want to see. This is new for us. We're really trying to put out a good product that can entertain people and make people excited and enhance our league, which we all love so much. So, Omari, anything to close?
That's everything from me. I believe, like just wherever you're listening to it, of course, like, share, comment. I think the comments for this is going to be in the forum. So comment on Facebook. But share it out share it to your teams. Of course, we're gonna try and tag everyone. We're gonna figure out how we're gonna distribute this and get it out so that everyone can hear it. And then, if you got any players who are, like wondering, like, oh, like, do I want to play? Hey, let them know this. You got any people in high school? Hey, the league is for real. We're here to play. We're here to dominate. And let's have some fun here.
I like that. Yeah, please share it, guys. And as long as people want to listen, we're going to keep making episodes. So, all right, Amari, I appreciate you, and let's link up Wednesday with Ryan.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Take care.
Bye.